The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time. You see what I did there? Alright, puns aside, today's video is obviously about the Wheel of Time. Today I will be doing a part 2 to the video I did attempting to predict events in books 2 through 14 of the Wheel of Time, and today I'm going to be attempting to predict events in books 5 through 14 of the Wheel of Time. Literally last night I just finished The Shadow Rising, and I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of predictions. I will be doing a part 3 to this series after I finish book 7, because that's the halfway mark, and then after that I think the predictions videos will be done. But this is the first part 2 I've ever done to a video, so I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so the way that this video is going to work is, first off, I'm going to have old predictions that I made from my previous video. If you haven't watched that, go over and watch it, or else this video is not going to make sense. I will have, the first section is going to be predictions from my first video that came true. The second section is going to be predictions from my first video that I no longer stand by after having read this far into the series. The third section will be the first section of my updated predictions, so it's just going to be small predictions, very broad, overarching things that I think may or may not happen. I don't really have a ton of evidence for it, but just more overarching, vague predictions. The fourth section will be my updated predictions on romances. I decided to give that its own section. And then my fifth section will be all of my really big updated predictions, some of my old predictions that I have new thoughts to add to, and then just some brand new huge predictions that I have a ton of evidence for that I want to go into, and that'll be how I'll end the video. Also, quick note, this video will contain full spoilers for books 1 through 4. I will not leave anything out, but for all future books, I'm like 30 pages into book 5, so there will be no spoilers for books 5 and beyond, unless of course I do manage to guess something right, in which case I don't even know that it's a spoiler. Section number 1 is old predictions that have been confirmed. I only have 2 of these. This will be a really short section. I will try to put chapters in on YouTube. If I don't end up putting chapters, I'll insert times here for all the sections, and I'll put them into the description as well. But there are only going to be 2 predictions in this section that came true. The first one being that Rand obviously is the dragon. This might seem really obvious to me and everybody else now, but when I made my first predictions video, I had only read the first book in the series. So Rand being the Dragon Reborn was still grounds for predictions, stuff that had not been confirmed yet, even though it was heavily hinted at in the first book, which is one of the reasons that it was a really easy prediction to get right. The second prediction that I actually got correct was that Tom is still alive. He was killed in the first book, and I theorized that the Murderer, the Halfman, whatever you call them, had not actually killed Tom. It did leave him crippled, as we find out in book 2, but he is not dead, so I was correct about that as well. Okay, moving on to old predictions that I no longer stand by. There are several of these, actually most of these from my first video, I have either revised or no longer stand by. So almost no predictions from my first video have entered into this video unchanged. But here are all the predictions that I no longer stand by, at least exactly. The first prediction that I no longer stand by is that Egwene will become a powerful Aes Sedai. Now I realize how broad of a statement this was, and the reason that this is in the predictions I no longer stand by section is not because I don't think she's going to become a powerful Aes Sedai, but I feel like that's too broad of a prediction for me to just say she's going to be powerful. We already know that she has the capability to use and channel a lot of the one power. So it's like, how do you define powerful? So in that sense, you can almost say that I did predict this correctly, but also at the same time, Egwene is not an Aes Sedai yet, so I will go more into Egwene and her being an Aes Sedai and what I think her character arc is going to look like later in some of the future sections. But for now, I do no longer stand by the incredibly broad statement that she's going to become a powerful Aes Sedai. The second prediction I no longer stand by is that Rand and Egwene will become romantically involved at some point. I no longer stand by this. They both claim no longer to have romantic feelings for each other, and I do believe this, and I do think that the two of them are not going to end up together at any point in the series. Was it kind of cute to start off with, and really one of the only relationships I was kind of rooting for? Yes, but also at the same time, I can see why they both have agreed that this is not going to work out, and I do no longer stand by that prediction because of stuff that happened in book 4 where Rand and Egwene were like, hey, I don't like you anymore. Yeah, I don't really like you either. There's a second prediction I no longer stand by. I don't think Rand and Egwene are going to be a thing at any point in the series. I might be proven wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. Another prediction that I no longer stand by is that one of the Emond's Field 5 will die. How to explain this nicely? In my mind, Ta'veren, which is what Mat, Rand, and Perrin are, has become synonymous with surrounded by plot armor. Between them and Egwene and Nynaeve having so much room to develop throughout the rest of the series, I don't think any of the 5 of them will die. I do think they're all going to get some sort of ending. Rand for sure, because he's on the cover of book 14. So duh, he's gonna be alive at least until the start of then. So we'll see, but I no longer think that one of the Emond's Field 5 is going to die. Alright, that is it for the predictions that I made that I no longer stand by, that I no longer think are correct. Now moving on into the small or vague predictions that I have revised or have made new. The first very broad prediction is that Rand, Mat, and Perrin are going to end up together again at some point. They've been split up a fair amount throughout the first 4 novels. They briefly came together at the end of book 3 and the beginning of book 4, but now they're split up again, and Mat and Rand are together, and Perrin is over here in Two Rivers, and I do think that they're all going to come back together again. They're going to end up together because Ta'veren. I really hope I'm saying that right. If I'm saying it wrong, somebody please tell me in the comments, because I'm definitely saying that wrong. The next prediction is that, I'm gonna say this one wrong too, we're just gonna call them the leash holders, because I have no idea how to say that. The people of the leash holders, I think they're going to show up again at some point. I don't think they are completely gone from the story. I do think they're going to reappear. I do think they're going to play a larger role. The next very vague prediction I have is that Aram is going to become a very important character, specifically surrounding Perrin. I think more specifically he's going to become a very good swordsman. That seems to be the path he's headed down, with being trained by Tam and whatever Mat's father's name is, and the warders that were in Two Rivers. But him giving up the way of the leaf to pick up a sword and avenge his parents seems to me like his character is going to stay by Perrin's side and is really going to go places. Next very broad prediction is that Nynaeve is going to master her ability to channel at some point. I need to gush about this really epic moment in book 4 where Nynaeve faced off against the Forsaken and destroyed this person. Well, I mean, she didn't like obliterate them, but her power is strong enough to directly match up against one of the Forsaken. And I don't think that that is going to go to waste. I think that she at some point is going to master the use of her power, is eventually going to be able to channel without being super angry, because right now that is the only thing holding her character back from just being incredibly overpowered. So I do think that she's going to need to be overpowered at some point, because there's still so many Forsaken left. So I think she is going to master her ability to channel at some point. The next very vague prediction that I don't really have any evidence for whatsoever, I just kind of just took evidence for this one and went, when you were like, I do think that Rand is going to find some way to shield himself from the taint on Sidene. To me, it just doesn't seem like Rand can hold out all the way to book 14 without going mad. I think he's going to find some way to continue channeling very regularly, which is what he's been doing. He's going to continue channeling very regularly without going completely insane, because in order for his character to reach whatever the final battle thing is called, he's going to need to not be insane. I don't know, this is really more of a feeling than anything, sort of brought up by actually one of the very first chapters in Fires of Heaven, book 5. I guess spoilers for the first 30 pages of that book, but one of the Forsaken were being given viewpoint from one of the Forsaken. He talks about how he draws on the one power and he feels his connection to the Dark One shielding him from the taint. I think that Rand is going to find some way to recreate that and shield himself from the taint when he is channeling. That is it for my very vague, small, don't really have much evidence for predictions, and without further ado, let's move into the romance predictions. First prediction. This is a prediction that I actually kept from the last video. I'm not actually sure I revised it at all, but I do think that Lan and Nynaeve are going to get married at some point. This romance doesn't seem to be dying out like any of the others. It seems to be building from what it started off from. But yeah, I think that's going to end in marriage. Also wanted to mention, I think it's possible that when they get married, she might become his I think it's possible that before or after, whatever, they get married, that Lan will become Nynaeve's warder. More on that later. Next prediction, I think that Gawain, or however you say his name, Elaine's brother, the nice one, not the super tall, handsome, just guy, I think that he is going to end up with Egwene. If he doesn't end up with Egwene, he's going to end up with Min. But I think he's going to end up with Egwene. I also think there's a chance that he's going to become Egwene's warder. I think that is entirely possible. And he's going to have some larger role to play. One of the reasons I think he's going to end up with Egwene is because, Min said something about him either killing Egwene or, bowing at her feet. I'm not sure what that was about, but I think they're going to be a thing at some point. Next up, we have my boy Rand. He's a lot less annoying than he was earlier in the series. He's getting a lot better. I appreciate that. A lot of the characters still really annoy me. Basically everyone except for Moraine really, really annoys me a lot of the time. I do think that Rand is going to end up with Elaine. I really don't see who else he could end up with at this point. I was just throwing this into the romance prediction section because this is what Jordan is leading me to believe, that the two of them are going to become a thing. It seems reasonable at this point. Really the only other romantic interest around for Rand at this point is Avienda, which I think maybe it could happen, possibly. But yeah, I think Rand is going to end up with Elaine. They're going to get married. I did hear something about some guy in this book marrying 3 different women. I hope it's not Rand. Also, I just wanted to mention this in here real quick. This isn't really a prediction, but when Matt went like an idiot through the magic red doorway in the basement of the Stone of Tyr, The people in there told him that he was going to marry the daughter of the Nine Moons. I don't believe we've met that person yet, which is why Matt is not anywhere in the romance section. I'll give an update when I think we've met her. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Radiant Reads Reviews, because that's where I'll post more frequent updates about what I finished reading and such. So, alright, that is it for the romance prediction section. Now we are moving on to the very large, I have evidence, I want to talk about this section of predictions. This is going to be the largest section. I have the most predictions in here, and some of these have carried over from the last video, but with changes. The first one, carryover from the last video. It was the first one I said in the last video, and it's going to be the first one I say here. I still think Maureen's going to die. Heck, Moraine thinks Moraine is going to die. She's thought about it. She's making like contingency plans for what she's going to do with Lan after she dies. She thinks she's going to die. This is gonna happen. The question is when. I just don't know when. But I think it is so obvious and so tropish, and Moraine is 100% going to die at some point. Couldn't tell you when, but it's gonna happen. Next up, another one of my favorite predictions is that Egwene is going to become the Amerlin seat. I have a lot of evidence for this one. Most of the evidence centers around the visions that Egwene had when she became an accepted. I think the visions that she had are a little strange, and I think that has to do with the fact that Egwene is known to be a dreamer. So I think that the visions that she had when she became an accepted have a lot more actual weight to what the future will be than the other girls. In the vision, Egwene saw herself as being the Amerlin seat, and some of Egwene's visions are basis for some of my other predictions, but I do think that Egwene is going to end up becoming the Amerlin seat. Another piece of evidence I have for this is the old Amerlin seat, who's now been deposed by Eladia. Names. The old Amerlet, Siwan, she said something about finding somebody to replace Eladia with, but having to find the right candidate. And I think 100%, hands down, that's going to be Egwene. Another reason I think it's going to be Egwene is because she is one of our three main characters who has potential to become an Aes Sedai. I highly doubt it's going to be Nynaeve. That doesn't seem to be Nynaeve's type. Nynaeve hates Aes Sedai. Nynaeve does not strike me as a candidate for the Amerlin seat. I don't think the Amerlin seat really likes Nynaeve very much. Elaine, she has the temperament to become an Amerlin seat, but she's also the daughter heir of Andor? But she is obviously going to become the queen of a place. So that's why she can't be the Amerlin seat and the queen, because that's just... no. So yeah, my next prediction, this one's... I'm excited about this one. I think this one's going to happen, is that Logain is going to have his ability to channel restored by the Dark One. Again, I reference Egwene's vision of when she became an accepted. I might have been interpreting this wrong. I really hope I wasn't. I do a lot of reading late at night, so it's entirely possible that I was interpreting this wrong. But in one of her visions, I believe when she was becoming accepted, I believe that she talked to an Aes Sedai, and the Aes Sedai said something about having been stilled and then having her power given back to her by the Dark One. I think this is foreshadowing for what's going to happen to Logain, that he was stilled or gentled, is the word for male Aes Sedai, and he's going to have his power restored to him by the Dark One.
Okay, so I did actually, in fact, go and look up in The Dragon Reborn the scene that I'm talking about in here, because I wanted to make sure this is not a completely baseless prediction, and I actually found the text that I was referring to, and I'm going to read it because it's actually pretty short. It says, "They stilled me. I cannot channel any longer." "Light," Egwene breathed. The rush of Sidar cushioned her against the shock. "The light help and comfort you, my daughter. Why didn't you tell me? I would have." She let it trail away, knowing there was nothing she could do. "What would you have done?" "What? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. But they said they could give it back to me, with the power of the Dark One." Her eyes squeezed shut, leaking tears. "They hurt me, mother, and they made me, oh light, they hurt me. Eladia told me it would make me whole again, make me able to channel again, if I obeyed. That's why I had to."
Egwene's vision is really the only evidence I have to back this up, aside from the fact that I've heard people talk about Loghain's arc and him having a character arc. So the fact that he has a character arc makes me think that he is definitely going to come back as an important character. My next prediction. This one is an either or prediction, meaning I think one of these two things is going to happen for sure, and that is, I think Galad, Elaine's other brother, I think Galad is either going to die or become a warder to Egwene. He clearly likes Egwene very much as more than a friend. So I think that his storyline is going to revolve more around her and possibly some around Elaine. But yeah, I think he's either going to die or become a warder. This next prediction is another one that I feel is fairly obvious, and that is, I think, Morgase. I hate names. Elaine's mother. I think she is going to die at some point. This mostly just being because Elaine needs to become a queen at some point. I think I should have put that in my broad, don't really have evidence for overarching predictions, but yeah, I think her mother's going to die so that she can be raised to queen. And then my other little extra tidbit I add is that it could possibly be because of some of the actions or at the hands of her new lover, possible husband, whatever the guy's name is. I'll insert his name here. But he showed up. He's obviously not a great guy because he sort of ordered Elaine's death. Maybe not the greatest substitute father.
Also, just wanted to add spoilers for Fires of Heaven if you haven't read that. Skip to this time. This guy is one of the Forsaken. How did I not see that? I don't.
Anyhow, on to the next prediction. Completely different direction. I think Perrin is going to become the king or the lord or whatever you want to call it of a new Manetheren. Now, for those of you who don't know, you probably all know, but Manetheren is like the city that used to be where Two Rivers is now. And they're always like, the blood of Manetheren runs strong in these people. Oh. But yeah, I think that the Two River folk are going to try to build a new Manetheren, and they're going to have Perrin be king. They already like him a lot, so I think it makes sense that they would raise him up to that position. Perrin is also ta'veren, which means a lot of crazy things happen around him. The pattern is weaved around his fate in a lot of ways, so I do think that he is going to end up being the king of a new Manetheren. Second to last prediction coming in here, we have one about Elaine. I don't really like this prediction very much because of it has to do with Jordan's romances, and I don't know if you picked it up from this video, but I'm not a huge fan of Jordan's romances so far. I don't really like any of them. I don't know if that's unpopular or not, but I don't really like any of the romances so far, and I don't think I will. So we'll see how that goes, but my second to last prediction is that Elaine is going to end up defeating Lanfear at some point as sort of a frick you because you like Rand and I like Rand, so I think I'm gonna kill you because Rand is mine. That's how I think it's sort of gonna be. Elaine is an extremely powerful, well, Elaine has a lot of potential to become a very powerful Aes Sedai. She's still only an accepted. But I do think that it is going to be her who ends up killing Lanfear, because Lanfear's got a little crush on the guy that Rand used to be in a different age. But yeah, I do think that Elaine is going to kill Lanfear. Finally, for the last prediction, I'm not very confident in this one, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. I don't think Nynaeve is going to become an Aes Sedai. I think it's possible that she could, but I also think it's entirely possible that she doesn't become an Aes Sedai. Nynaeve has always been a little different from the other Emond's Field 5. She was in a different stage of life. So I think it's entirely possible that because she hates Aes Sedai so much, she's always hated Moraine, she just doesn't like Aes Sedai in general, that it's entirely possible that she will take what she learns and what she knows about how to use the power and go sort of do her own thing without being part of the White Tower. This also goes in with my prediction of Egwene becoming the Amyrlin seat. I don't think that Nynaeve would like feeling like she is below Egwene in rank. I know this sounds kind of weird, but Nynaeve is a pretty petty person sometimes, and I don't think that would sit right with her. So I do think that might even be part of the reason why she chooses not to become an Aes Sedai. Alright, that is going to be it for today's video. I know it's a really, really long one. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Feel free to drop a comment below. Did you enjoy this video? Do you enjoy my predictions videos? Do you think it's funny watching me either horribly fail or completely nail predictions? Were there any ones that you think I nailed? If you want to keep up with what I'm reading, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Radiant Reads Reviews, and I will see you all in the next video.